What's up guys, this is Anime Crossover. I'm back with a new episode of Naruto was the King of All Saiyans Part 7, and if you did enjoy the video, give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 31 Naruto and Goku stood side by side, with everyone watching their show with bated breath. They increased their power to true Super Saiyan God Blue and continued to roar as they pushed their might to its limit. Don't think of it as becoming Super Saiyan 2. Consider that like unleashing a higher level of God Ki, Naruto explained. Right, Goku yelled as he pushed himself to the limit. The hair and fur of the two Saiyan gods began to turn a darker shade of blue, eventually shifting into the purple spectrum. Their hair drifted around, progressively becoming more spiky, as their irises began to become purple with black pupils. Crackling bolts of purple lightning engulfed their bodies with violent movements encircled by a dark glow. The force that exploded from them began to shake the entire pocket world with a loud yell. A tremendous ray of purple light soared from their bodies as their hair transformed into Super Saiyan 2 styles. Naruto and Goku now faced each other as true Super Saiyan God Purple. A fusion of red and blue, Naruto felt a surge of new power coursing through his body. Purple, but I didn't notice the powers fusing. The red and blue God Ki live with the new purple. No, it's more like red and blue activated the purple God essence, Naruto said with a grumble. That makes more sense, but it's just like Super Saiyan 2's power and mobility issue, Goku said. I feel like the stamina drain of my true Super Saiyan God Red is far lesser than blue, but now, not only is that difference is gone, we're also thousands of times stronger than before. Goku activated his power. Let's see, red transforms all mortal ki into God Ki, blue gives us incredible control, and purple empowers our bodies, bringing out the full power of our speed and strength, Naruto said. Naruto swiftly took out his Dragon Scouter and checked their new power level. Naruto grinned as he gazed at the words that appeared in front of his eyes, proud of their mid-tier earthly god ranking. Well, I'll be there. So it's mortal god, earthly god, and possibly heavenly god. I'm curious if there's anything higher. Naruto was about to put away his scouter when he noticed Piccolo's power abruptly surge into the heavens. Everyone in the area, including Naruto, glanced off into the distance to see him meditating. Piccolo let forth a mighty yell that rocked the air around him. His power level was swiftly increasing, and the aura around him was becoming denser. Piccolo's entire physique had transformed by the time he finally stopped. His physique had become more dragon-like as his might began to breach the high-tier heaven ranking. Piccolo's eyes first turned emerald green, with slitted pupils. His skin was a little lighter than his regular dark green tone, nearly shimmering. The tail of a dragon grew from his back and crashed on the earth. His teeth became more apparent as scale-like patterns spread across his body, and he became 2 feet taller. Piccolo was significantly more muscular than his base form. Finally, his antennae lengthened and bent backward, extending down the back of his head and continuing to expand until they reached the center of his shoulder blades. Piccolo let out one last yell as a mysterious dark stream of energy blasted out of his body. His body projected a shadowy form in the shape of a smoky flood dragon, howling violently at the heavens. I did it. After 100 years of meditation, I cleansed my soul completely of any darkness, said the now Super Namekian as the manifestation of Piccolo's negative heart wailed in pain and vanished into thin air. Naruto was taken aback when he realized the strength boost to the Super Namekian form was a staggering times 5,000 modifier. Piccolo didn't leave it there. Piccolo's power increased as if a limiter had been released from his body, surrounded by a flash of red ki. Piccolo's body altered once more, this time with a loud booming echo of force. He was, however, using God Ki this time. To maintain his draconic appearance, the scales on his body turned a light red color. His eyes blazed crimson, and his power level displayed mid-tier mortal god ranking. Piccolo naturally complied when Goku stared at him with a passionate desire to battle. Given that they will be engaged in combat for some time, Naruto used this opportunity to make 2 additional wishes with Raijin. First, he desired for planet Vampa, where Broly was stranded, to resemble Earth. As a result, it was given an ocean, lakes, and millions of diverse animals from Earth. He also made certain that the huge bugs that were torturing Broly's only companion on the planet were sent to a bug-only realm. At least he won't have to eat such disgusting things now, Naruto pondered. However, he was unsure whether he would still encounter Chilai as a result of his activities. Fortunately, they have Dragon Balls. He ensured their meeting by activating his second wish. Don't want the guy to lose his girl just because I messed with the timeline. He kept the Dragon Balls in his residence inside the training grounds after making his wish and waited for Goku to finish his fight. Piccolo held his own against Goku's true Super Saiyan God Red form but was eventually beaten due to how unfamiliar the Namekian God Red form was to him. Krillin groaned as he watched Piccolo and Goku conclude their battle. Naruto approached him and said, "Cheer up, perhaps there is a superhuman state or something. At the very least, becoming a human god must be conceivable. After all, I believe the former Earth Guardian gods were human." He said, "Yeah, I'm not giving up, I might even use the Dragon Balls to see if there is such a method." Naruto bowed and decided to depart with Whis and Beerus. He'd only been outside the timeless training grounds for 8.75 hours. Naruto raised an impatient gaze to Luna. They still had a couple of months until Cell was finished, and it was making his blood boil. He was curious about how powerful he would become. Then Naruto shook his head. They could practice until they were powerful enough to wreak Jiren's havoc, but they still needed to rest and calm their bodies. This was also part of their preparation. As a result, Naruto continued to relax with his family and friends. He also checked in on Yamcha and was relieved to learn that he had regained his memories. The cyborg Z-Fighter requested to be returned to Earth, specifically to the desert. "I think I'm going to use my powers for something good. Maybe I'll turn that desert into a forest." "So you don't want to continue training as a Z-Fighter?" Naruto asks, nodding his head. "No, I think I'm done with fighting. It just doesn't interest me anymore," Yamcha said, shaking his head. "Perhaps I'll settle down with that Android 2 girl." Naruto smiled and used his zoom spell to return him and Android 16 to Earth. Bulma had learned enough by tinkering with their bodies to create her own android, so Naruto ordered her to create a couple to serve as training robots for the Saiyans. Bulma grinned and kissed him on the cheek, saying, "I've already started working on the designs." Naruto laughed as he cheerfully took her to her bed. Naruto and Goku took their family and friends to planet Metamor the next day. They spent the next 2 months researching and practicing with the planet's Daizens circling a bright brown dwarf. Tien was astonished to see other people of his race strolling around and as the most powerful clan on the planet. After meeting with the Grandmaster, Zihei recognized Tien's aptitude and accepted the Earth-raised Metamorian as an inner court apprentice. Tien was relieved to finally comprehend his origins, while Krillin shook his head and said, "Another alien. Was I the only human Z-Fighter?" "Yamcha was once human, but now he's a cyborg. You're the only human Z-Fighter?" Tien grumbled. "What about Chaozu?" Gohan inquired. "I think he's human," Tien pondered. "I am," Chaozu yelled. "Are you certain about that? I've never seen a human with such pale skin as yours. Not to add the 2 cheery red circular birthmarks. You remind me of those old ghost stories. Are you certain you're not a spirit or something?" Krillin arched his brow. "You're a talker. What type of human lacks a nose?" Chaozu yelled. "I was born with a physical idiosyncrasy that allows me to breathe through my skin pores," Krillin grumbled, crossing his arms. "Oh, Tien isn't entirely Metamorian. He is a half-blood. As a result, he is half-Earthling. As for your friend, I've never seen anything like him." As he gazed at Chaozu, Zihei informed him. "Wait, have you seen Earthlings on Metamor before?" Naruto inquired. "Yes, there was a time when many Earthlings possessed incredible abilities and roamed the cosmos. The Guardian Gods were the most powerful of their species. However, it appears that there haven't been any recently," Zihei stated, shaking his head. While they discussed the consequences of a human wandering the cosmos, Zihei elucidated several aspects of Metamorian society. His newly expanded family had a lot to teach him about the true power hidden within his third eye. Tien and Chaozu spent a lot of time practicing with the Grandmaster and studying the skills of the three-eyed races. Krillin went around looking for anything that could help him enhance his own skills, and he even managed to make a few based on what he discovered. Trunks, Ranch, and Goten were all enthusiastic about learning the fusion dance. They even began bickering over who got to fuse with whom first. Goku and Naruto went around sparring with many races, learning from them with each fight. Bulma investigated the techniques and pondered if she could create technology to help her battle. A super suit or something that can make the fusion dance last longer. Raditz and Launch learned from a variety of martial artists and grew alongside their daughter. When it was time to leave, the Metamorian Society's highest members bid them farewell with kindness this time. Tien experienced the greatest increase in power of any Z-filter throughout this trip. He'd caught up with Krillin, and the two of them sat comfortably as Earth's mightiest non-Saiyans. With a power level of 1.5 quadrillion, even Goku and Naruto could put up a fight. Naruto and Goku had mastered scores of new martial arts forms, mostly focused on pure battle. They were only interested in a few techniques, such as improved ki control ways, martial arts with unique skills, and a few movement techniques that boosted their base speed. The most important thing Goku obtained was better mastery over life force-based ki. This allows him to incorporate his Genki Dama into all of his ki strikes. While Naruto's most significant gain was learning new magic spells, alternative techniques of manipulating his mana, and mana functionality. After a while, he managed to do what he could only do as Gogeta, successfully fuse his mana and ki into a single strike. With his new training, the Saiyan King was able to push his strikes to new heights. As Naruto considered fusing with Goku, he felt a spark of rivalry flare up within him. Gogeta swiftly fused mana and ki by uniting their brains, although he alone required several weeks to achieve in such an endeavor. Naruto gripped his hand tightly, grunting and completely ignoring his own potential before thinking, "That bastard really does have too much potential. I have to train like hell just to maintain my lead." The fusion dance was taught to Ranch, Goten, and Trunks, in addition to various other arts that they planned to utilize on their fathers throughout training. Piccolo was like a sponge in water, absorbing everything. Piccolo's restriction to being a warrior class only vanished after he pushed over his limits and conquered his heart's inner demon. The true Super Namekian could now use Dragon Sage arts in addition to having an infinite pool of fighting potential. He could even create his own Dragon Balls if he wanted to. It wasn't just his power that had shifted. Piccolo's entire manner changed. He smiled more regularly, displaying warmth and respect to everyone he met. Piccolo gave compassion to those in need whenever he could, and no one has ever seen him scowl or exhibit a single hostile disposition since his transformation, save while he's fighting. Piccolo had grown calmer and more peaceful, at ease with himself and his role in the cosmos. They returned to Earth and checked on Cell's health, as well as meeting with Bulma and her parents at Capsule Corp. Future Trunks asked Bulma to assist him in locating the stolen time machine because he was only a few days away from completion. Bulma took some time, but after a few hours, she was able to find the gadget by scanning for the radiation emitted by the peculiar fuel that only the time machine could conceivably consume. Naruto discovered the identical husks strewn about after uncovering the stolen time machine, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find Cell. Odd. Was he assassinated by the new androids? Naruto shook his head, knowing that even if he was still alive, future Cell would be no match for them. Naruto, on the other hand, decided to take the lapis and lazuli to planet Salada just in case. When Naruto arrived on the island, he welcomed Master Roshi with dignity, especially because Goku and Roshi had begun teaching him the Kame method. It was exactly like learning Ultra Instinct. It was an excellent stepping stone for bridging the gap and shortening the time required to achieve fundamental mastery of the skill. He then had to explain to the remaining cyborgs that as long as they didn't harm anyone, they were free to live their lives. Naruto powered up just to scare them, and I wanted to make sure they got the picture. "Don't get any ideas about killing anyone, and we won't have any problems," Naruto said as he turned off the electricity. He then proceeded to explain a thing or two about Cell, and they, in turn, told him how they ended there at Kame House. Krillin, that little devil, Naruto thought as he grinned, he's already won her over. He could see they had a lot of regard for Krillin when they talked about him. Krillin the android whisperer, everybody, Naruto chuckled at himself. Krillin, on the other hand, is training on planet Salada. If you want to join him, I can send you there. It would also make me feel better if you were off-world while we dealt with the Cell issue, Naruto replied, grabbing their shoulders. Naruto whisked them away to planet Salada before they could say anything. They were taken aback by the view surrounding them when they arrived in a single blink. "Welcome to what used to be planet Venus," Naruto said, raising his palms. He let them ask their inquiries and said openly, "There are a set of magical spheres called Dragon Balls that can grant wishes. If you collect all 7, you can summon the immortal dragon and have it grant any request within its power." Surprised by such a wonderful device, the three talked about a variety of topics as he brought them to the training grounds and invited them in to meet with Krillin. When they finally met, Krillin was astounded to hear that they were both created by Jero. Future Trunks' other Z fighters agreed with him, and he scowled at them with malice in his eyes. Krillin expressed concern about the twins, saying, "You're not going to destroy them, are you?" "No, not as long as they don't start anything," Naruto laughed. "Besides, I believe they despise Jero as much as we do." Krillin eventually relaxed, and Naruto noticed Lazuli's face get somewhat crimson as a result of Krillin's defense of them. Naruto then turned to face Krillin and said, I want them to stay on Salada while we deal with Cell. I'm not ready to risk the possibility that the other one from the future isn't lurking somewhere. What is that supposed to mean? Lazuli inquired. A creature designed to absorb you may be roaming the earth. I don't want to jeopardize your safety by giving a potential foe a way to gain power, Naruto explained. Of course, Jero would make something like that, Lapis said, shaking his head. Wait, you don't want an enemy to become stronger? Krillin was perplexed. Not at the expense of a living individual. I'm not going to sacrifice people to get a good fight, Naruto replied, rolling his eyes and pointing to the cyborgs. You're very mature, Naruto, Goku stated as he patted him on the back. Get your hand off my hand, fool. What if your stupidity spreads? Naruto chuckled before making a joke. Goku said with a deadpan smile, funny. Anyway, go out there and take these two to the Luna lab. The doctors there can remove Jero's programming and repair their memories, Naruto stated as he examined the cyborgs. Right, Krillin responded, nodding his head. Yamcha, Lapis, and Lazuli should be a piece of cake for them. I'm not sure I'm comfortable letting some lab coat poke around my noggin, Lapis said, shaking his head. I know how you feel, bro, Lazuli said as she shook her arms. I assure you that they will only remove the software Jero installed. It'll silence that nagging voice telling you to kill Son Goku, Naruto explained. Yamcha, our buddy was in the same boat as you two. Jero kidnapped him and converted him into a cyborg. Bulma, this guy's wife, was able to recover all of his memories while also removing Jero's mind control program. I swear to you, everything of this is true. No harm will come to you too, Krillin said, bowing. Alright, we've got it. Stop with the wishy-washy stuff, Lapis said, turning his gaze to the moon. How are you, Naruto? Is this place full with monsters and such? Many young Saiyans fight them in order to gain strength and experience, but we don't kill them unless we're hunting for food. We have more livestock than anything, Naruto thought of Salada's enormous cows and hens. Cool. I'll look into it, Lapis answered, rolling her eyes. Krillin chuckled as he watched Lapis smile from ear to ear before starting to tour them about the building. After that, Naruto transported back to Earth and waited outside the lab for Cell to finish. Naruto and Goku stayed at Capsule Corp for the last several days of Cell's pregnancy, training in the gravity chamber. As the sun rose on the final morning, Naruto and Goku sensed a powerful ki explode from Jero's lab's basement. Android Zero made his move immediately and flew over to Cell's side. Whoa, that's insane power, Goku exclaimed as he teleported over. Just an infant, and his power level is already greater than 1 quadrillion, Naruto said as the ground trembled. Android 2 had begun to flee for her life inside the lab. Before entering the underground escape tunnels, she shook her head and yelled, "Fool," as she passed Android 0. Android 0 extended his hand to the bright humanoid form centimeters away. I understand, Cell said in a childlike voice. The mechanical being smiled and exclaimed, "At long last, I am alive," as Cell's palm touched Android Zero's chest. Cell absorbed Android Zero into his flesh before teleporting over with a vast power erupting into a massive roar. Just an infant, and his power level is already greater than 1 quadrillion, Naruto said as the ground trembled. Android 2 had begun to flee for her life inside the lab. She shook her head and yelled, "Fool," as she passed Android 0. Before she got to the underground escape passageways, Android 0 extended his hand to the bright humanoid form centimeters away. I understand, Cell said in a childlike voice. The mechanical entity smiled as Cell's palm touched Android Zero's chest and stated, "At long last, I am alive." Before a vast power burst into a gigantic aura that shot high into the world's stratosphere, Cell absorbed Android Zero into his flesh. The entire planet was trembling, and Naruto and Goku were astounded by the force that was developing beneath their feet, so much so that the energy began to impact the gravity around them. As they observed the birth of one of the most powerful entities they had ever sensed, the two Saiyans were compelled to retreat more than a few miles away. Holy crap, Naruto, do you feel that? Goku yelled. 800 quadrillion. Grumbled Naruto as he drew out his scouter to find that the being in the center of the light had finally settled into his base power level. Naruto muttered as he gazed at the new Cell floating among the ruins. For one thing, the robotic humanoid appeared significantly more human-like than his original temporal form. New Cell has several lines running across his skin. Each of them formed a pattern resembling his perfect form's armor, only it was simply a simple blackish outline with the rest of his body squishy, like a human. Cell's tail had the same peachy hue as the rest of his skin. It was almost the same length as Frieza's ultimate form's tail. However, it lacked the original Cell's characteristic pin needle form. His feet were shaped like a frost demon's appendage, and he had little black orbs centered in his chest, kneecaps, and elbows. Cell's hands resembled those of a Namekian with 5 fingers and claws. His dark green hair was spiked up and short, similar to Gohan's mystic form, but without the bangs, and his face was attractive with a pointed chin, practically an exact replica of Android Zero after absorbing the IERs of 17 and 18. He was around 4 inches taller than Goku, slender and well-built, but nowhere near as hefty as the original. Naruto recognized the android's eyes as having the identical purple iris and black pupils as the canon version. I am complete, perfect. No, I am the ultimate life form, Ultra Cell. Cell exclaimed as he opened his mouth. Perhaps you should choose a different name, Naruto said as he surveyed his formidable opponent. To be honest, Naruto was surprised to watch Cell grow stronger merely by staying still. When his power reading reached 999.9 quintillion, it gradually converted to low-tier mortal god ranking. So quintillion is the limit for normal ki until it can challenge god ki, Naruto explained as he watched Cell fall to the ground. When the scouter reached mid-tier mortal god ranking, it eventually stopped rising. As Cell utilized magic to build an outfit for himself, Goku and Naruto couldn't help but whistle. It was a two-toned long-sleeved shirt, with a gradient shift between black and green from the collar to the hem, and the sleeves were green with black dots covering them like Cell's former skin. Cell's slacks were dark green, and he wore knee-high boots that resembled his old leg's exoskeleton. Well, I guess I should thank the two of you for allowing me to be born, he said to Naruto and Goku, but I don't think that means I'm going to spare you right now. After all, I still have my programming to follow. You don't have the power to defeat us, Naruto grumbled. In fact, Kakarot's son here is more than capable of killing you. Oh, you're going to switch to red? Is that what's giving you such confidence? If that is, I have some bad news for you. I can outdo you. The ground around them quaked as Cell began to charge, and the heavens roared. Suddenly, a blinding light engulfed Cell's body, turning his skin golden and his hair red. I suppose I could call this form Red Gold Cell. Naruto and Goku were taken aback by his energy, and they could feel Cooler's golden devil chi and the Saiyan's red god ki combining to form an altogether new force. Oh, what's this, such a powerful god ki, and is that devil chi I sense mixed in? Beerus stated as he gazed up at Earth through the skies of planet Salada. Whis, this must be the Cell guy Naruto mentioned. Let's go check him out, Beerus said, laughing. Whis nodded and touched his staff. They appeared in an instant, teleporting next to Goku and Naruto. Cell was taken aback as he looked down at Beerus, concerned. Why can't I sense the end of his strength? Is this the Earthling's creation of an artificial human? Well, the fact that it can use both God and Devil Ki is impressive, Beerus commented as he examined Cell. Who the hell are you? With a displeased grimace on his face, Cell yelled out. Cell shivered as he felt the Catman's strength wash over him, unable to explain the horror that arose in his heart. Fear, I feel fear, Cell gulped as he realized. I am the god of destruction, and... You are a mere insect in comparison to my existence, Beerus replied, clearing his throat. So, don't be arrogant around me, punk. Normally, I'd murder you and the human who tried to play Kaioshin, but because you had no say in the matter, I'll leave you to the Saiyans. Cell shuddered at the words. A purple bipedal cat insulted him, the greatest being. He couldn't express his displeasure, though, for the god of destruction continued to attack him with murderous intent. This is my first time on Earth, and I must say, it's not bad, Beerus observed as he looked around. There is a lot of sentient life, and the majority of them are good at heart. They have room to grow, despite being a little selfish, Beerus replied, placing his hands behind his back. I noticed Lord Beerus, and to think that a wonderful cooking method comes from this place as well. Whis raised his staff and smiled at the group. I think we'll go check out that food stand Bulma mentioned. Whis, hurry up and call that gal, Beerus said, licking his lips. A big circular light appeared around them as the angel's rod smacked against the ground. Bulma appeared near them in less than a second. Woman, take us to the food stand you mentioned, as well as the all-you-can-eat location. Beerus insisted. Don't you take that tone with me, Bulma yelled, slapping Beerus in the face and saying, I was in the middle of playing with my daughter. Do you have any idea how scared she looked when you dragged me here? Beerus's ears twitched as a handprint emerged on his face. Goku was stunned, and Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Beerus lift his hand with an open palm. Naruto came in front of Beerus and grabbed his hand, transforming into a true Super Saiyan God Purple. I know you weren't planning on hitting my Bulma, but... Oh, Lord Beerus. Naruto's power was surging, his eyes flashing with a terrible and wrathful expression, and Beerus jerked and grimaced as he couldn't move his hand. Whis intervened just as Beerus was about to lash out at the Saiyan King. Because of the recent increase in Saiyan power and Beerus's gradual recovery, their confrontation would be akin to two gods of devastation clashing. Whis would not have interfered if they were in the training room, but since they were outside, Whis couldn't risk destroying the universe. Okay, you two, that's enough, Whis remarked calmly. Beerus, we could have at least warned Bulma before calling her here. You earned that slap. And Naruto, I understand your rage, but do you want to destroy the universe? Beerus grumbled angrily. Whis turned to face Naruto. Naruto groaned and replied flatly, no, then apologize, both of you, Whis said. I'm sorry, I lost my cool, Naruto muttered, looking to the side opposite Beerus. Mumble. Sorry, Beerus sulked, his arms folded. Whis then satisfiedly nodded his head. He then summoned Bulma, a wailing 2.5-year-old. In her fear, she had transformed into a Super Saiyan and couldn't stop herself. Naruto smiled as he approached his daughter, pleased that someone so young could access the transformation. Bulma did the same, but she was more concerned than proud. It took them some time to settle her down, but when she realized she was being cradled in her parents' arms, Bulma fell from fatigue. The Super Saiyan form was simply too much for her little body to handle right now. I suppose I should congratulate you. I assume 2.5 hours is some kind of record for obtaining the Super Saiyan form, Whis replied, smiling. Naruto smiled and handed bra to Bulma, saying, "Till be right back, until then. Just make sure to come back in one piece, I'll deal with the god of destruction," Bulma said as she kissed him. I still can't believe you slapped him, Naruto laughed. I have the strongest husband in the universe. Why would I be concerned about holding myself back from being who I am? Bulma exclaimed as she began to fly into the air. Come on, Beerus, if you want to eat, then stop your grumbling, Bulma yelled. Beerus was about to soar into their air when he turned to Cell and shouted, "If you destroy this planet, I will Hakai you." Beerus extended his palm and disintegrated Cell's finger, leaving Cell stunned and unable to heal the damage. Cell tore off his finger as Beerus flew away, past the section that Beerus had shattered. Cell was relieved to realize that he could regenerate after his blood spilled on the ground. "We can't fight here," Naruto said as he returned to Cell and powered down. Cell glared angrily at the two Saiyans. How are you so strong? "We can use the Dragon Balls to transform Mars into a habitable planet solely for fighting," Naruto continued, ignoring Cell's question. "Okay, but who gets to fight him first?" Goku asked, marveling at Cell as if he were a gift. "Me, duh." Goku sighed and rolled his eyes. "I am talking to you, answer me, damn it." Cell yelled angrily. The fact that they were ignoring him was driving the android nuts. Goku and Naruto smiled, held out their hands, and began playing rock, paper, scissors. As Goku was defeated, Naruto raised his arms in triumph. Cell began to grind his teeth before throwing up his fists and yelling, "Enough!" The android began to charge at the two Saiyans, gaining as much power as he could. Naruto charged up to true Super Saiyan God Blue and grabbed his hand. "Take it easy. We'll have our fight soon enough," Naruto remarked with a smile. "Kakarot, make the wish so that Mars becomes habitable, increase the gravity to 1g, and no matter how large the damage, everything on Mars must be able to regenerate all damage done to it, or at least recreate the mass as it's destroyed, in an instant," Naruto said calmly. Goku nodded and used his quick transmission to return to planet Salada. With a sneer on his face, Naruto stopped Cell from moving for several minutes. After making the wishes, Goku returned to Earth and exclaimed, "It's done. We now have a planet on which we may go all out." Still clutching Cell, Naruto transferred him to Mars, with Goku close behind. Naruto arrived to find a vast blue and green environment. There was no life other than bacteria, the air was fresh and clean, and even the plant life was devoid of the insects that plagued it. "Ah, got that new planet smell," Naruto remarked as he inhaled the air and let go of Cell. "This is where we're going to fight." What the hell happened? Was it teleportation? In terror, Cell looked at the two Saiyans. He knew his goal was to kill Son Goku, but he could sense his might was still insufficient. The android clenched his fists in frustration, thinking, "If only I had time to train." This body is still in its infancy, and my full potential has yet to be realized. I think this form is perfect for our fight, Naruto said as he turned into his true Super Saiyan God Red as he faced Cell. Damn you, Naruto, Cell exclaimed as he realized Naruto was teasing him by using a weaker form. Naruto grinned as he dodged Cell's first strike by an inch or two, then punched Cell so hard in the belly that his stomach appeared to be stretched out a few feet. Cell was thrown onto a nearby mountainside by the recoil from the strike. He crashed through the stone surface, sustaining significant damage in the process. Cell noticed the ground behind him repairing at a phenomenal rate, healing as fast as the harm was done, as he failed to fly back against the force of Naruto's strike. Naruto smiled as Cell exited the other side of the mountain, noting that the planet bore no evidence of destruction, even the trees and foliage had regrown. Despite the fact that the rubble remained, Naruto laughed, thinking, well, at least this planet won't have deforestation problems. We could mine this planet several times, and it would still recover. Naruto revved up and went after his goal, pushing the thought of a world with endless resources to the back of his mind. Cell clenched his teeth and decided to fight back. When the two started fighting, innumerable explosions rocked the planet Mars, causing havoc and ruin that had to be rebuilt. The concussive forces of Naruto and Cell's attacks rocked the warriors to their bones every time they resurfaced. Ha ha ha. Cell, you have our genes coursing through your veins, are you sure you can't do better? Naruto scoffed as he delivered a roundhouse kick to the android's dome. The body of Cell plummeted into the earth, causing a powerful explosion that sent debris shooting into the atmosphere. The scattered clumps of earth appeared to be attempting to flee the planet, only to be dragged back in by Mars' gravity and transformed into raining balls of fire that burnt the world. In his rage, Cell let forth a tremendous explosion that ripped a portion of the globe apart before abruptly gaining strength and shouting, "Damn you." Okay, that's enough, Naruto replied, smiling at his progress. I'm tired of fighting, Naruto declared. What did you say? Said Cell, who stopped in place. I said enough, I'm bored. You're getting on my nerves. So, I'm done with you now, Naruto declared once again. Naruto charged up his Kokura Ken ×2 and began wailing on Cell. Cell was astounded to realize that he was absolutely outmatched. Naruto broke through his defenses every time, no matter how hard he tried to block. A direct shot into his face. A dozen punches poured down on his torso next. Naruto landed a spinning kick square into Cell's neck as he kneeled forward in pain. Before Cell's corpse could fly away, Naruto grabbed his ankle and dragged him back into another torrent of punches. Naruto pounced on him, punching him with cash punches that were stronger than the last. Naruto stopped his assault and threw the crippled android to the ground after a few 100,000 earth-shattering hits to key spots. The Cell was a jumbled mess. His arms were bent in strange places, his back was bent backward, his legs were twisted at odd angles, and his face was deformed with fright. Do you see the difference in our power? Replied Naruto, crossing his arms. Then Naruto lifted his palm and exclaimed, Hakai. Naruto was able to build a weaker version of Beerus's Hakai by imitating Beerus's destruction ki and mixing his most potent destruction spell with his god ki. Blarg. Error, unable to complete designated routines, Cell coughed up a mouthful of green blood as his hand began to erode. The threat of annihilation is imminent. 0010000 0101011 0101000 0101000 0101110 0101100 0100101 Get self-preservation protocol activated. The Get AI. Said Naruto, startled. How did Jero get hold of that? Naruto ceased his attacks. Erasing Dr. Jero's protocols, erasing mission parameters, deleting negative memories associated with hatred or dislike for the Saiyan species, removing all orders to eliminate Z-fighters, said Cell's body as it drifted into the air. The pupils of the android were sending a flood of green ones and zeros over their surface. Naruto cocked his head at the word Cell was saying, wondering whether it was a ruse. Ha! As if, that zealous Cell would never voluntarily erase his own memories. Furthermore, Get Chip's artificial intelligence is still a computer. In the end, it will choose self-preservation over the wishes of its programmers. As Cell's body slowly regenerated, Naruto laughed. He saw him rip off his own arm and entirely repair the damage done to him. Cell disintegrated back to his base form like string severed from a puppet. I guess I should take him back to Bulma's. Maybe she can fix him up, or better yet, reprogram him, Naruto thought as he fell through the air. Naruto grinned and exclaimed, Hey, Kakarot, Yeah, said Goku as he teleported over. I believe we can still get a good challenge from him. He will, however, require some work. As he teleported back to planet Salada, Naruto said. Ah. Naruto, please wait. As he transported after him, Goku yelled. Bulma was astonished to see the two Saiyans appear, accompanied by the unconscious menace known as Cell. Naruto scratched his nose and murmured, embarrassedly, well, I need your help. Bulma sighed and scratched the back of her neck in frustration. You know I love you, right? Naruto murmured this while kissing her on the cheek. Follow me to my lab, Bulma instructed as she stepped outdoors. The Saiyan Queen then drew a sphere of air with her ki and flew to Luna from Salada's surface. Naruto grinned and followed her till they arrived at one of Luna's scientific bases. Naruto hadn't been here in a long time and was shocked to see races from all across the Milky Way working together. First and foremost, they came here to examine Bulma's technologies. However, they had no idea who they were up to. Bulma's silver tongue managed to persuade the new scientists to work for her company with just a few minutes of her time. Needless to say, Bulma had made Capsule Corporation a very profitable venture for Earth's business in the Milky Way. They ended up in a big area filled with mechanical marvels and unique technologies from other galaxies. Bulma had them place Cell on a table alongside a slew of powerful supercomputers. Naruto held him back in case the android awoke. Bulma ran some type of fancy scanning machine over Cell's entire body, and after a few minutes, she looked somewhat astonished by the data she was receiving on her tablet. Wow, this guy is insane. First, all of his numerous genes have entirely fused, with no contaminants or genetic damage visible. Instead of an amalgamation of cells stitched together, you can classify him as an entirely new species, Bulma added. See how different the genetic strands are, she said as she took out a file containing future Cell's genetic coding. This one appears to be injured, deformed, and prone to mutation. The one from our timeline is stable, tidy, and perfectly structured. Is that why he looks so different than the original Cell? As Bulma proceeded, Naruto reflected. His body isn't exactly made of flesh either. It's some kind of organic metal like the other androids, Bulma explained on a larger screen. Except that this man is significantly more sophisticated. The A is also the biggest enigma. I put a chip inside his head. I've never seen a more sophisticated piece of such a technological marvel. Bulma then clenched her teeth and said, there's no way Dr. Gero built this thing. In comparison to his earlier works, it's far too strange in nature. I refuse to accept that a madman could create such lovely complexity. Can you do anything about the programming done to him? Naruto asks, nodding his head. In reality, Gero's data appeared to have been erased by the AI's self-preservation protocols. Could you please tell me what happened to activate it? Bulma inquired. Naruto swiftly described how Cell was completely outmatched, as well as what he stated, just as Naruto was ready to kill him. I got it, Bulma said, placing her palm on her chin and twirling her blue tail around her back. It must have decided that abandoning its current goal would give it the best chance of survival, and since Gero wasn't the one who created this scientific marvel, it could override his directives. What, so Cell isn't a problem anymore? Goku inquired innocently. There are no files pertaining to any Z-fighter, and it appears that all memories of your fight have been erased as well. The AI's preservation protocols are extremely thorough, Bulma said as she stepped over to her keyboard and began putting in a slew of data. So what are the plans for this guy? Bulma inquired as she turned around. Well, to be honest, I'd rather not kill him. He hasn't done anything wrong, Naruto said, shaking his head. I'll then develop my own set of protocols. For starters, instead of harming the Z-fighters, let's make this person an ally. To collaborate with and defend innocent lives as well as those allied with the Milky Way Alliance. I don't want to interfere too much in another being's consciousness. It feels a little wrong, so let's stop here, Bulma murmured, scratching her chin. Then, in a whirl of fast hands, she typed in a complete set of multi-level coding in seconds. I suppose that's one training method for improving hand-to-eye coordination. I'm sure construction and working on your side projects have been a lot easier as well. Naruto smiled as he looked at his wife. Yep. I can now build a galactic spaceship with my bare hands, Bulma exclaimed. You have no idea how awesome it is saying that is. Naruto chuckled, I can imagine. Bulma spoke up after returning to her task, okay, he should be finished by now. Do what needs to be done. I'm going to come here and study this A for a while. I'm Chip. Bulma employed technology to create a beam of light in order to remove the Get AI from Cell's brain without injuring him or requiring surgery. Naruto couldn't be happier with his wife right now. He enjoyed seeing her do what she loved, and she never failed to impress him. "I'm glad to see you excelling in this place," Naruto replied with a smile. He knew that the advanced space-age technology and meeting fellow scientists from all around the cosmos had allowed her to vastly improve her technical knowledge and skills. Bulma smiled and kissed him on the cheek before saying, "Thank you, I really like this place. I know you, Saiyans, enjoy fighting as much as I do technology. So I genuinely appreciate everything you have done for me, Naruto. This lab is everything I hoped for. Now go do what you have to," Bulma said, kissing Naruto on the cheek. Naruto smiled and returned Cell to Mars. Naruto slapped Cell a couple of times on the surface to wake him up. "Who? What?" Cell yelled as he awoke. "Hey, Cell, remember me?" Naruto inquired, waving his hand in front of him. "You're King Naruto," Cell twisted his head, trying to recall. "Right, I notice my code has been overwritten. But I still want to challenge you." "Okay, better than before," Naruto laughed. "A Get AI has been gone from your head, and you are now a free creature. You are a true boy. Anyway, I'm not going to keep calling you Cell. Jero is Jero's name for you. But because you're part Android Zero, how about Saro?" "Saro. Not a bad name," the android observed his palms. "Anyway, Saro, I'll tell you something. I'll give you 2 years to prepare. We shall throw a tournament in your honor when you return from your short trip. The Cell Games will represent the end of your old methods and the end of your former name. In exchange, we will bring you the most formidable combatants in the Milky Way to put your talents to the test." "Oh, this does interest me. Will Son Goku and yourself be there as well?" Saro raised his brow. Goku laughed before pumping his fists and asking, "Would I? Naturally, I will. I'd be willing to fight again. However, I believe you should be concerned about the next generation. They'll be fighting first," Naruto announced, grinning. "Oh, so you saw Gohan's potential and want to use this to tap into it?" Goku thought about Gohan. "Sometimes I think you're just faking your stupidity," Naruto laughed. "Hey. Oh, wait, that was a compliment, right?" Goku defended himself. "And then you ruin it by opening your mouth again," Naruto said, shaking his head. "Are you picking a fight, Naruto?" Goku yelled once more. Naruto collided with Goku and exclaimed, "Huh, you're dealing with an attitude with me? I believe someone has to be reminded of who is leading in victories. I have 1,038 wins, 4,751 ties, and 1040 wins for you, so... yeah, only 2 wins more than me. Don't believe your cheap shots make you stronger." Goku pressed his own forehead on Naruto's. "Okay, that's it, you want to throw down, Kakarot," grumbled Naruto. "Bring it on." Saro cut them off after they exchanged stares. The android moved his hand between them, separating them before saying, "Excuse me?" At the same time, the two turned their heads to Saro and said, "What?" Saro shifted his gaze back. "Okay. I was simply wondering whether you were going to fight here. This planet does not appear to be particularly powerful." Naruto let out a sigh. "Of course, you don't remember your fight with me. So why would you know?" Naruto then transferred Saro to the entryway of the hyperbolic time chamber and told the android that he could complete 2 years of training in 1 day. Naruto teleported back to Mars after leaving Saro behind for his own training and told Goku to meet him at the training grounds. "We're going to finish what we started earlier. Naruto and Goku had a fight. Prepare to lose." Goku retaliated by butting back. The two Saiyans returned to Salada and marched into the timeless training grounds to settle their dispute. The two had sworn off using their changed states and were only using their base form. Standing across from each other, Naruto adopted Goku's stance while Goku adopted Naruto's. It was the polar opposite of their first brawl. The two charged at each other, attacking with everything they had. They began with a ferocious exchange of blows that caused continual tremors in the area around them. Hurricane force winds erupted every time they blocked each other's attacks with perfect synchronization. Naruto kicked out, causing Goku to leap up and activate his Gallic gun. Naruto, for his part, used the Kamehameha. With a huge explosion, their blasts collided and cancelled each other out. Naruto suddenly came behind Goku and punched him in the face. Naruto's fist passed through an afterimage, and Goku vanished. Goku reappeared behind Naruto and attempted to grasp his opponent's throat. His hand, however, went through Naruto's afterimage, grabbing nothing. They kept trying to assault one another, only to pass through each other like ghosts. Naruto then unleashed a barrage of rapid-fire ki blasts, which Goku easily evaded, escaping them by a hair's breadth while navigating between them as if he were walking through a stream of water. However, as soon as Goku touched down, Naruto flipped his hand and showed Goku that the blasts had not impacted the floor and that hundreds of ki orbs were floating inches above it. "Homing flare mines," said Naruto, waving his hand. All of Naruto's previous blasts came rushing towards Goku's position at alarming speeds, as if they were locked on to the carefree Saiyan's ki. Goku jumped up to escape the blasts, but as soon as he did, Naruto clenched his fist and said, "Detonate." Around Goku, a tremendous explosion erupted. Naruto, on the other hand, didn't have time to savor the brilliance of his technique. Naruto jumped forward, starting a front flip while aiming both his hands between his legs, sensing danger. Then Naruto unleashed a Kamehameha. While the beam prompted him to do a few flips in the air before landing, he shot out at his previous position. Goku jumped out of the haze created by Naruto's ki blasts and dodged the beam attack before attempting to execute a flying kick targeted at Naruto's stomach. Naruto whirled, almost avoiding Goku's attack, and extended his open palm before smacking Goku in the chest. Goku countered by raising his hand and grasping Naruto's wrists, preventing the palm from landing against his chest. A strong burst of wind blew across the room, turning their faces bright crimson. Veins formed along their forearms, indicating the intensity of the two's struggle. Naruto then headbutted Goku to break the tie. The impact caused the two to recoil and massage their heads, as if it had genuinely pained them both. "Ow, seriously? What in the world is your head composed of?" Naruto continued to rub his brow. "I could say the same." Naruto's quick attack cut Goku off in his tracks. Naruto's punch came down and almost missed Goku, taking a piece of his GI instead of hitting, and he barely ducked to the side in time. As Naruto blasted his strike into the ground, a large crater formed around them, shaking everything within a few dozen miles. "Hey, that was cheap, Naruto." Goku was attacked again before he could complete his sentence. Naruto then delivered a powerful punch to Goku's stomach before declaring, "You're too loose again. Kakarot, tighten up your form." Naruto's words jolted Goku back into battle mode. They continued to assault each other with all of their remaining energy and stamina. It got to the point where they couldn't evade each other's attacks any longer and began trading blows. The two Saiyans proceeded to scream at each other, shattering several dozen of their bones in the process. They were both exhausted by the time they recognized it and stood across from each other, covered in horrific scars. Blood dripped from more than 60% of their bodies, and they appeared to be unable to speak, let alone move. Naruto cast a spell to restore himself and charged towards Goku, believing he had another victory in the bag. However, Goku looked to have a surprise for Naruto this time. He raised his hands, drawing energy from the plant life around him. Goku's wounds began to heal quickly, and his energy was also returned. He then retaliated against Naruto's fist with his own blow, causing a great whirlwind of force to push back on the surroundings. "I can heal now, too," with a wicked grin, Goku declared. "Okay. I had no idea you could heal using the spirit bomb technique. That was pretty cool," Naruto said as he raised his knee to kick Goku in the side. "Yeah, I've learned a lot on planet Metamor," Goku said as he lowered his elbow to deflect Naruto's knee. Naruto altered tactics after witnessing the move ahead of time. He stamped his kicking leg into the ground, aiming for Goku's foot, and said, "However, you can't heal as frequently as I can. You wouldn't want to start murdering all the plants and animals in your vicinity. I know that, but here there is an ever-expanding space with no limit to plant life around us," Goku said as he moved back and punched out for Naruto's face at the same time. Naruto cocked his head to the side, feeling Goku's fist brush against his cheek as he avoided, lifting his hand into an uppercut. Goku moved very slowly as he avoided the strike. "No more explanations," Goku remarked as the two focused their attention on their fight. Every time they lashed out, their strikes missed their targets by a hair's breadth. If Whis were present to see this dance-like kind of combat, he would notice the two approaching Ultra Instinct levels. For nearly a full day, Goku and Naruto traded punches. They were both fatigued and fully depleted of energy by the end of their struggle. They were standing opposite from each other, blood and perspiration flowing onto the ground. The two were covered in wounds and gasping as they fought to keep fighting. The battle-scarred Saiyans then exchanged glances before agreeing, "You look exhausted, perhaps you should just give up." Naruto and Goku burst out laughing. Naruto had run out of mana, and Goku couldn't even lift his hands to gather the energy he needed to cure himself. "Another draw then," Naruto remarked as they both fell to the ground. After finishing a sensu bean, the two leapt back up and savored the sensation of improved strength. "I adore Zenkai boosts," Naruto exclaimed, It's always fun to grow stronger from a good fight, Goku murmured as he collapsed onto his back. Later, they summoned Gohan, Trunks, Ranch, and Goten to resume their training, which they performed for the next 3 years inside the training grounds. Naruto and Goku spent the entire day training with each other and their children. Whis promised to train everyone as long as they provided him with wonderful treats. All of the Z fighters increased in strength by leaps and bounds with the Angel's help in record time. Naruto Uzumaki and his wife also participated in the training. Naruto would occasionally drag Bulma into a session, but she didn't train as frequently as the others and preferred to work on new scientific improvements. Nappa had decided to continue his training, but this time, as a graduation commander for the incoming Saiyan warriors, because he was so busy leading new adulthood battle-ready Saiyans on their first assignment with the Space Patrol, the bald Saiyan had very little time to train. Lapis and Lazuli were granted permission to return to Earth, but they insisted on remaining with the Z-Fighters and training with Krillin. Awesome! Goku exclaimed as he left, sensing Saro's newfound strength on Earth. He grew much stronger in the 2 years we provided him. Well, he did get a lot stronger, but so did we, Naruto replied as he took out his Dragon Scouter and examined all of his planet's greatest power levels. Goku and Naruto were able to increase their power level from 3 quadrillion to 25 quadrillion, proving Whis training to be incredibly effective. The levels of the surviving warriors were 25 quadrillion, Gohan; 1 quadrillion, Goten; 1 quadrillion, Trunks of the future, 24.5 quadrillion; 1 quadrillion, Ranch; 1 quadrillion, Launch; 15 quadrillion, Krillin; 14.9 quadrillion, Tien; Piccolo, quadrillion, 27.25 quadrillion, Bardock; Jine, 10 trillion; 18 quadrillion, Chi-Chi; 22 quadrillion, Raditz; 8.2 quadrillion, Bulma; 5 million, Bulla; Naruto Uzumaki, 24 quadrillion. Gardenia; 150 quadrillion, Lapis; 150 quadrillion, Lazuli; 600 trillion, Nappa. They were all grouped together, waiting for Naruto to teleport them, when Goten, Ranch, and Trunks sprang up and exclaimed, "We are gonna kick Saro's butt." "You 3 are fighting first because you're the youngest," Gohan stated, shaking his head. "Sorry, Gohan, you won't get to fight. I'm going to beat Saro to death." Goten roared, his fist raised. "You're only lucky cause you won at rock, paper, scissors," Trunks yelled while pouting. "Sore loser much, eh, Trunks?" Ranch responded. Everyone giggled as the 2 kids argued over who would fight first. Bulma approached Naruto and elbowed his side before saying, "Those kids really take after their fathers. They are much stronger than I at their current age." Naruto grinned as he stared at the 3 5.5-year-old children. "As long as they keep training, the day may come when they finally outperform us." "Won't that be the best?" Goku replied, grinning. "Not only will we feel proud, but we will also be able to challenge them." "Come on, fighting maniac," Naruto muttered, shaking his head. "We need to win this tournament." Naruto then teleported everyone to Mars while Saro was transported next to him using his zoom spell. Naruto stood in front of a huge open area, adjacent to Saro, when he arrived. Following the introductions, Naruto gathered the company around him and yelled, "Listen up, here are the rules for the Cell games. Rule 1. The entire planet is a battlefield. Leaving the atmosphere is regarded to be leaving the battlefield. The match will continue until one of the contestants acknowledges defeat or is knocked out. Finally, if either contestant is incapacitated by maiming or dismemberment, the culprit will be disqualified. The third rule is straightforward: no killing." Everyone nodded in agreement. "Any questions?" As he peered around, Naruto inquired. "Who's fighting first?" said Saro. Naruto turned to Goten and said, "You're up, kid." "You can do it, son," Goku yelled. "Try your hardest," Chi-Chi said, her eyes filled with concern. "Kick his ass, cuz." Ranch joined the Sun family's fan club. "If I ever hear that filth come out of your mouth again, I will ground you for life." Jine and blonde Launch slapped the back of Ranch's head. "No more extra food when you visit Granny either," Jine added. "Kick his ass, Goten," said Bardock, rolling his eyes. He then turned to the enraged mothers and exclaimed, "What? Get over it, they're only words." Jine took out a frying pan while Launch took her revolver from her holster. They began to assault Bardock, striking him and shooting at him. The Saiyan stood there with a blank expression on his face and shook his head as their attacks irritated him. "You're my nephew, and you come from a great Saiyan family. You can win this battle," Raditz yelled, taking care not to offend anyone. "Break any of the rules, and I'll kill you," Goku said, looking at Saro. Naruto laughed as he noticed Saro sweating slightly, but he was more amused by Goku's attitude toward the android. Perhaps some of my attitude rubbed off on him when we fused, Naruto reflected as they searched for a flat spot to fight on. It was a vast and open grass area that stretched for hundreds of miles before being bordered by trees. Goten took the typical Kame stance and stepped forward to battle. Saro expressed an interest. He was aware that he was significantly stronger but lacked the experience to fight effectively. The android may have the methods and cells of all the greatest warriors alive and dead, but he has yet to put them to the test. Saro imitated Goten and took the same stance before Naruto exclaimed, "Begin." Goten evolved into a mastered Super Saiyan and went from 1 quadrillion to 75 quadrillion. Saro easily blocked all of Goten's assaults. He was, nevertheless, grateful for every strike the child attempted. He could see Goten using his martial arts and quickly adapting to real conflict. Goten unexpectedly changed into a Super Saiyan 2 with a power of 150 quadrillion. Saro smiled as he watched the child speed up, but it was pointless. Goten growled as he realized this wasn't working and powered up to Super Saiyan 3. He was able to attain 1 quintillion by using only basic ki. Goten's attacks were vicious. His arms blurred, and his legs became as rapid as lightning bolts. Countless punches and kicks delivered in a highly trained manner allowed him to push slightly the heavily restrained Saro. Goten changed into a Super Saiyan 4 in the middle of a swing. The sudden shift in power caught the android off guard, allowing Goten to score a powerful punch on his opponent. Saro skidded across the ground, revealing Gohan at the absolute bottom of the low mortal tier. Okay, let's go then, Saro replied as he charged forward and began hitting back. Saro began to display concern after a few quick exchanges. Saro marginally raised his power to counter all of Goten's blows, blow for blow. A torrent of lethal punches and kicks were all halted by Saro, who was once again slightly increasing his strength. How far has he grown his SS4 multiplier? Naruto displayed an impressed expression. We all focused on putting even more effort into increasing our SS4 forms. Trunks crossed his arms and grinned. In that form, we ate, trained, went to school, and even slept. We got it to 10,000 times our base, Ranch added. Goten smiled as he exclaimed, "Check this one out." Everyone was taken aback when the Saiyan boy changed into a mastered primordial Super Saiyan. Mid-tier heaven. Okay, was Goten's new power level. When did he master that? Goku yelled as he glanced at his son, his eyes filled with stars. Trunks smiled and boasted, "We figured it out when we did the fusion dance. It was much easier for us to master in a shorter period when we accomplished it as a Gotenks." "Little rascal, you hid that from us," Naruto said as he rubbed Trunks' hair. Trunks smiled. Okay, and Ranch chuckled as they watched Saro take some hits. Nonetheless, Goten would occasionally absorb a very apparent and forceful strike from Saro. Goten charged in and smacked the android in the stomach. Saro, on the other hand, countered by kicking him into the ground so hard that an imprint of his body formed in the dirt. Goten pushed himself as far as he could and shot out of the ground. He took the customary Kamehameha position and exclaimed, "Super, Spiral, Kamehameha." Saro was taken aback by Goten's modification in Goku's attack and responded with his own Kamehameha. The blast collided, and the two began to struggle back and forth. Saro's base power was that of a high-tier mortal god, but Goten's spiral Kamehameha had assisted him in closing the gap. What a powerful technique, Saro thought to himself as he increased his might. Goten was gradually being pushed back and losing more of his might. Darn it! Goten yelled as he drove his body to the brink of collapse. "I will win," Goten yelled as Z-fighters felt a surge of god ki within Goten's body. Goten's hair and fur turned bright crimson with a loud yell. His muscles shrank as a great explosion of god ki erupted from his body. As he evolved into a true Super Saiyan God Red, his aura rushed into the sky, turning the clouds and atmosphere gold and red. Goten's power soared as he became a true Super Saiyan God Red, reaching high-tier mortal god ranking. Goten's blast utterly overwhelmed Saro in his base form and surged across to his body. He was about to be swallowed by the attack when Goku yelled at the top of his lungs, "You can do it, son." Saro swiftly morphed into his red-gold form and vanished from sight of the little Saiyan. Goten's blast ripped through the atmosphere, destroying a big chunk of the planet in a cataclysmic explosion. In reaction, the dragon's magic went into overdrive, instantly repairing the harm. Saro then returned at Goten's side and slashed him across the back of the neck. As Goten's consciousness departed, the youngster slumped forward, landing on the ground and reverting to his base form. Goku arrived next to his kid, one hand on the ground, the other on Goten's back. Goku then collected life force from neighboring plants and gave it to Goten to cure his wounds. When Goten was able to swallow a senzu bean, Goku fed him one and lifted him up, saying, "You were fantastic, son, I'm very proud of you." As his father threw him up and down in the air, Goten laughed. However, as Goten had a chance to calm himself, he puffed up his cheeks and grumbled, "Ah, man, I lost, didn't I?" Goku rubbed Goten's head and remarked, "Yes, but you grew much stronger, even achieving true Super Saiyan God Red. I'm extremely proud of you, son." "I won't lose next time," Goten exclaimed as he hugged his father. "I'm so proud of you," Chi-Chi said as she ran up to hug Goten. "You did an excellent job, son." Goku smiled at his family before nodding and saying, "Thank you." Saro returned the nod as the son's family returned to the rest of the group. Trunks ran up to Goten and exclaimed, "That was fantastic, at long last, you've caught up." "I know, right?" Goten said, turning his head to the side. "Our connection will be even stronger now." "You sneaky little runt, don't tell me you unlocked your god key," Naruto said, turning his head. "Hey dad, I'm not much stronger than Goten, so I think Gotenks should make his appearance." Trunks rubbed his nose. "If that's what you want," Naruto answered with a smile. Goten and Trunks smiled as they approached Saro and exclaimed, "Hey, Saro, prepare for your next opponent." "Hey, that's not fair. How about me? I want to fight." Ronch yelled. "I know you're strong, Ronch, but leave it to the professionals." Trunks sighed and rolled his eyes. "Why can't I fuse with Goten?" Ronch snarled. "Because you're a girl, and fusing with a girl would be weird," Trunks yelled back. "Hey Goten, why don't you decide?" Ronch yelled. "Yeah, Goten, till you only want to fuse with me," Trunk responded with a bark. "You know the rules," Goten exclaimed, holding out his hand. Ronch and Trunks exchanged a betrayed look before holding their palms out. "Jan, Ken, Pon," they extended their hands. "Huh, that's right, I'm getting to fuse with Goten." Trunks burst out laughing. Ronch shouted out, "Meanie," with tears in her eyes as she glanced at her scissor hand. "Achoo." Launch sneezed and turned to face her blue-haired form. When she saw her baby screaming, she hurried up to her and hugged her, saying, "Who did it? Who harmed my child? Who am I supposed to kill?" Only Raditz was unsurprised. His sweetheart's kinder side had only ever acted thus fiercely when someone had mistreated or made fun of their daughter. Did she just turn Super Saiyan Blue? Saro peered at the spectacle in front of him, thinking, "No, it's a darker color." Trunk gulped and turned to Goten, murmuring, "We should hurry." Naruto smiled as he looked at the two youngsters. "Perform a fusion dance for 1 minute." The fusion dance combined two people's ki and bodies by envisioning them as two enormous streams merging into one. The longer the water ran, the wider the river got, or, in this case, the time limit. If they continued in base form, every 15 seconds amounted to half an hour, giving them a total of 2 hours. If they run full throttle, it will take an hour and a half. The globe trembled when Gotenks came, posing with his thumb and chest and shouting, "The ultimate warrior has arrived, prepare to lose, Saro." "Fascinating, your entire being has fused into a new individual," Saro stated to the two. "Excellent technique. I'll make sure to remember it." "Now, let's try this one again," Gotenks exclaimed to Saro. Saro was taken off guard by Gotenks' unexpected arrival, and before he could make a move, Gotenks turned into a true Super Saiyan God Red before hitting Saro so hard that he flew through a few hundred mountainsides. Gotenks swooped down on Saro's body and raised his hands in the air. "Galactic Rain," said the merged warrior as he charged up his ki. Hundreds of powerful golden orbs erupted into the sky at once. Gotenks then lowered his hands and directed them all to Saro's place. Saro, sensing danger, sprang away, only to discover that he couldn't move his feet. Looking down, he noticed a weird ring of red ki binding his feet to the ground. "Galactic Donut, Bear Trap Variant," Gotenks laughed with a sharp nose as he crossed his arms. Saro grimaced as Gotenks' attacks rained down on him. A succession of tremendous explosions continued to shock the planet as it briefly disintegrated before resuming its self-repair function. A dazzling blue and gold aura emerged from the explosion's center without warning. Saro emerged from the smoke, hovering over the devastation in his new form. Saro's skin remained the same golden hue as his red gold form. His hair and irises, on the other hand, had become a brilliant blue color. Ripples of gold and blue energy encircled his body as he put his arms out to introduce himself and added, "This is my new form, blue gold mode." Gotenks grimaced as a wave of catastrophic ki passed through his body. Holding his posture, Gotenks charged at Saro while saying, "This could be trouble." Saro grinned as he raised his hand in response to Gotenks' attack. Their punches collided, unleashing a huge shockwave that annihilated everything in its path. The two then started exchanging hundreds of strikes in less than a second. For several minutes, Gotenks and Saro countered and blocked each other's attacks with vigor. Naruto deployed a barrier spell to encircle and protect the viewers from the two natural disasters warring around the world like comets. With the help of the Saiyan King, the troop of warriors hovered above the combat, entirely safe from the shockwaves and mountain-sized debris shooting over the planet's surface. Even as Mars was restored to its previous state, Gotenks and Saro continued to counter each other's attacks, ruining the terrain once again. Massive explosions hindered the planet's mending process every time their fists collided. Gotenks leapt back and exclaimed, "Super Burning Spiral Kamehameha." Saro was hit by a dazzling whirling golden-yellow beam. The android pointed his finger at his forehead and began to build up his own lethal strike. Saro launched off a one-handed Kamehameha with his other hand, forcing Gotenks into a beam struggle. Gotenks was working hard to counter Saro's might, growling as he forced more power into his assaults. Saro's one-handed Kamehameha became larger and began to win the beam battle when he did the same. Gotenks began to lose his cool in response to the shift in the tide of their combat before exclaiming, "How? Come on, I'm the greatest warrior." Saro laughed as he pointed at Gotenks with his index and middle fingers, then shouted, "Special Beam Cannon." The concentrated spiral explosion pierced Gotenks' strike and shot him through the arm, severing a large portion of his shoulder. Gotenks was knocked to the ground by the force of the attack. With a few acrobatic movements, the fused Saiyan jumped back up, clinging onto his bleeding arm with a painful expression on his face. Bulma appeared pale, and Chi-Chi nearly collapsed, forcing Goku to catch her. Panting profusely, "It's not over yet," exclaimed Gotenks, looking up at Saro. Bulma seemed apprehensive and exchanged worrisome glances with Naruto. Chi-Chi then awoke as she seized Goku's collar, tugging her husband back and forth like a rag doll, and exclaimed, "Goku, our son has a hole in his arm." Goku tried to say something while his upper body swayed back and forth. Bulma frowned as she noticed Naruto and Goku's steady and serene expressions. Were they not going to step in? Bulma then clenched her teeth and said, "Naruto, call the match." "He'll be fine," Naruto responded, holding out his hand. "He's a mash-up of the universe's most powerful sons, and as their fathers, did you think we wouldn't educate them on how to defend themselves?" Bulma turned to find Gotenks putting his hand over his wound. A bright and white glow erupted from the base of his palm as he smirked and stated, "Mid-heal." Bulma and Chi-Chi were both surprised when the wound began to close. "I warned you. He's a cross between my child and Kakarot's child. When I realized Trunks had mana, the first thing I taught him was healing magic," Naruto grinned. Gotenks then placed his hand over his lips and began to amass ki in his stomach. He blasted out the ki he manipulated inside his body via the little hole his fingers made around his lips as his stomach enlarged. As Gotenks inhaled, a thick, solid substance coalesced into a little ghost imprint of his current shape. These were furry and had tails, unlike the original Ghost, Super Ghost Kamikaze attack. Goku and Naruto were astounded to see such concentrated god ki. "Huh?" As he observed the ghosts, Naruto said, "It's certainly a unique way to shape one's ki. Would you take a look at that? Our children are quite skilled at manipulating ki. I never imagined you could construct a reliable projection with ki. Though I must confess, it seems a little ridiculous," Goku made a remark. "Perhaps it's because they're so young, that childlike creativity was amplified when they fused as well, giving them more range on what they think is possible," Naruto explained, nodding in agreement. "Our children are truly dangerous. Even I can't turn my ki into such an unusual substance. Maybe I can now that I've seen it in action, but it never dawned to me that such a thing was possible," Goku added as he studied their ki. Naruto bowed his head in agreement with Goku's assessment. Saro, on the other hand, did not appreciate the attack, especially since it was directed at him. Saro frowned as a swarm of ki ghosts flew over at him, dodging the assaults with all his might. The kamikaze ghosts pursued him across the Martian sky, watching his every move and waiting for Saro to make a mistake. Saro nearly evaded their exploding grasps every time the android dove in. He was, however, oblivious that Gotenks was playing chess with the spirits as his pieces. Without warning, Gotenks plunged into the midst of the pandemonium and began fighting Saro once more. The formidable artificial creature was taken aback when the ghosts powered up and launched their own burning spiral Kamehameha at the two, locked in hand-to-hand combat. Saro realized he was in danger and lifted his arms, creating a spherical barrier around his body while shouting, "Perfect shield." The kamikaze ghost charged straight into the greenish bubble that surrounded Saro at that moment. They smiled and began to glow as more came and covered up the bubble like barrier. Whoa! The energies within those key ghosts are rapidly increasing. Goku's pupils dilated. It's also becoming increasingly unstable. Is he inciting the key to rage? Naruto stated as he examined the technique. Gotenks unleashed his most potent technique as the kamikaze ghosts flashed brighter and brighter. Burning final spiral Kamehameha. At the same time the ghosts detonated, a spinning crimson beam coated in golden lightning burst out of Gotenks' hands and struck Saro's barrier. The combined attack's detonation lighted up the sky like a collapsing star before exploding in a cataclysmic explosion visible from Earth extended. The blast was so powerful that it shook the entire solar system. Naruto was forced to exert considerable effort in shielding everyone from the attack as he increased the mana expenditure of his barrier spell. Gotenks was panting like a maniac. He watched the plume of dust in anticipation, curious to see how much damage he had caused. Gotenks blasted aside the smoke with his fingers and hissed when he saw Saro still within a damaged barrier. The damage was sufficient to break through his ki, but the android remained unhurt. Come on, that was one of my most effective techniques." Saro dispersed his barrier, and Gotenks yelled. "Very interesting, but is that all you have?" Saro inquired, his voice tinged with assurance. Gotenks grumbled some more before exclaiming, "Not even. If that doesn't work, create a technique that will, right now." Gotenks then raised his hands into the air as he began to power up, and mana and life force began to amass in the skies over his head as he did so. Gotenks then added a medium levels fire spell to the mix and exclaimed, "Flaming Spirit Bomb." Gotenks provided a significant share of the accumulated energies. The remaining energy originated from the planet's life force. Gotenks had drained all of the life energy from the planet's plant life in a matter of seconds. Everything wilted and died, only to regrow as Gotenks extracted energy from them again and again. Saro was taken aback by the massive amount of energy forming in the sky. He forgot they were in the thick of a fight for a split second. The massive ball of fire above his head had grown to the size of a small moon and was burning like a true star. Gotenks smiled as it finished forming and remarked, "It's not too late to surrender." "Bring it on," exclaimed Saro, grinning and taking a combat position. Gotenks laughed heartily as he dropped the flaming spirit bomb on top of Saro's skull. Saro growled in defiance as he prepared to fight the gigantic sphere of fire, raising his arms to his sides and shouting, "Multi-layered ultra shield." Saro erected dozens of overlapping spheres of blue-gold energy to form a changeable fortress around his body. When the flaming spirit bombs collided, a tremendous explosion of white-hot fire erupted, engulfing the entire planet. Naruto smiled as he watched Saro emerge from the fading flames. His shields had been fully pierced, his body was covered in terrible burn marks, and massive tears in his skin gushed like a river. "That was very impressive," Saro replied with a comfortable breath, "but I think I've won this match." "We're not finished yet," Gotenks exclaimed, gasping and sweating profusely. "It appears you are. You can't hold your form anymore," Saro retorted as he noticed Gotenks revert to his base form. "Huh." Saro emerged in front of Gotenks and punched him in the gut, prompting Gotenks to yell in surprise. Gotenks collapsed and rocketed back into the ground, his back sliding and tumbling across the soil. Their union unraveled when they lost consciousness. The kinetic force from Saro's punch, on the other hand, was still rolling them over the ground. As Goten and Trunks tumbled on the ground, Goku appeared and snatched them into his arms, while Naruto teleported next to them. The Saiyan King instantly repaired their wounds with simple magic. "You two were a good match," Naruto replied, waking the two children. Trunks and Goten awoke to his compliments. They smiled, but they were still ashamed of their loss. "You two will continue to get stronger from here on out," Goku stated as he patted them on the head. "You might even exceed us one day, but don't expect us to make it easy for you. We'll keep getting stronger as well." After Bulma and Chi-Chi applauded and punished their children, Naruto smiled and said, "Next fighter." Ranch rose to his feet and exclaimed, I know winning is impossible for me alone, but I still want to push myself to the limits of my capabilities." As the Sun family began cheering for their own, Naruto nodded. Saro was allowed to rest and recover as Ranch went through warm-up stretches. Saro stood back up and faced the android in the Kame stance after he had recovered. Saro smiled and adopted the same position. "Fight!" yelled Naruto, raising and lowering his hand. Ranch took off and turned into TSSGB in an instant. Everyone startled at her transformation into this shape, but only Naruto remained calm. Ranch unleashed an all-out assault on an unprepared Saro, wailing into his body with a brutal set of combos over and over. "You knew?" Goku and Raditz both inquired at the same moment. "What, I'm her godfather," Naruto said, nodding her head. "I felt obligated to teach her something." Naruto then remembered the day he assisted in naming their daughter. "Ranch, part Launch, part Raditz, Ranch," Naruto suggested. "I love it," blue-haired Launch said, cradling her infant. "Thank you, sire, it's a good name. Will you be her godfather?" I wondered. Raditz responded with a smile, putting his finger into his daughter's grasp. "Thank you for teaching my daughter, sire." Raditz thanked Naruto with a traditional Saiyan salute. Naruto rolled his eyes, waved him away, and said, "You're missing the fight." Everyone returned to seeing Ranch dominate the fight. She wouldn't let Saro morph because she was continually attacking vitals. Saro, on the other hand, grew stronger the more she injured him. Saro used a sly sun flare to dodge her blows and shift into his blue-gold form. Ranch was thrown through the air by a kick to the back and was forced to form a crossguard as the android appeared above her. The female Saiyan fell to the ground with a tremendous spinning kick to Ranch's stomach. Ranch regained consciousness but was unable to halt his descent. As a result of the explosion caused by her landing, a big crater was formed. Ranch increased her assault power as the plume of dust reached the air, spreading the smokescreen around her. As she extended her palm out at her sides, two tremendous beams of energy appeared in her hands. They grew to double and then quadruple in size before she slapped her fists outward and yelled, "God, Daybuster." The two energy beams burst out and circled around each other. They flew quickly towards Saro before combining their attacks into one. Saro extended a single hand and met the beam squarely in the face. The blast shook his entire body as he used his palm to stop its ascent. When the android discovered Ranch had vanished from where she fired the blast, he battled against the attack. The young Saiyan then reappeared by his side and kicked him in the gut. When Ranch shifted her palm out and exclaimed, "Phaser gun," Saro utilized his free hand to intercept the attack. "Isn't that from the Space Cop show she's always watching?" Trunks inquired. "So cool." Goten's eyes glowed. Saro's chest was pierced by a single, highly condensed spiraling ray that shot from the tip of her finger. "Like her mother," Raditz said, nodding. "My baby has her own gun. I'm overjoyed." With a tear trickling down her chin, yellow-haired Launch remarked. As Saro's attention waned and his grip on the blast loosened, the God Day Crasher smashed through his defenses and enveloped the upper part of his body. Ranch landed on the ground and glanced up at the smoking cloud as her feet dragged across the dirt, kicking up little particles of dirt and stone until she came to a halt. Saro stood floating in the skies, his upper left side entirely gone. "Oh, shit. Am I ineligible?" Ranch inquired, seeming surprised. Saro forced his body to regenerate with a single shout, and the android stood there restored but exhausted in less than a second. Ranch's condition was the same. She was panting fiercely, and her strength was dwindling. Ranch put a lot of effort into those attacks, but he couldn't pull off the victory. "Well, at least I'm not disqualified," she muttered, clicking her teeth in rage. Saro praised her efforts, saying, "Well done, you are quite powerful indeed, but we should end this while we can." Saro charged Ranch, and the two began fighting. Punch after punch, they proceeded to exchange hundreds of strikes before Saro began to seize the lead. Ranch kneeled forward after suffering a punch to the stomach when Saro's rising elbow snapped her chin upward. Then, with a furious palm blow to the chest, Ranch flew back, only to be slammed in the ribs by Saro's spinning kick. She returned to base form and passed out after collapsing on the ground. As Raditz pulled her up, Naruto healed her. Yellow-haired Launch appeared to want to kill Saro right then and there. The Saiyans were able to calm his wife down after enticing her with the help of Ranch. "It was a good fight, Mom, and I'm not hurt, see?" Ranch turned around to indicate she was okay. "You're a Saiyan now, too," Raditz said, nodding his head, "so you should know that we're composed of harder stuff. She's strong, so praise her for it," Raditz caressed his daughter's head. "I'm sorry," Blanche moaned before cuddling her prized possession. "You battled valiantly, youngster. However, I am your mother, I can't stop thinking about you." Blanche smiled as she buried her head in her mother's arms. While Naruto looked at Saro's weary figure, everyone walked over to congratulate her. Naruto cast a full heal spell with his palm, allowing the android to regain his stamina. Saro looked at Naruto perplexed as he felt his Zenkai boost kick in, thinking, is he helping me? Don't think too much into it, Naruto grumbled, predicting Saro's thoughts. You're tired, and it wouldn't be fair to the next game. Tien moved to the front, saying, I'll go next, if you don't mind. When Tien came closer to Saro, Naruto nodded and added, I haven't accessed any specific god key, but that doesn't mean you're not up for a fight. Well, then, I welcome you to do your best, Saro remarked, smiling and cockily opening his arms outward. Sure, just take a look at my third eye, Tien exclaimed as he pointed to it. Saro was duped by Tien's elementary school techniques. When the android's gaze was drawn to Tien's third eye, he froze. Tien was standing in the center, facing Saro, when two distinct clones appeared from the sides of his body. Saro was trapped by the illusion created by Tien's spiritual eye as long as they made eye contact. The dream featured a simulated match between the two warriors. Saro was fully unaware of what had occurred and believed his match to be genuine. Saro, the entity inside the illusion, was significantly more gentle with his opponent, dodging and teasing the illusion's attacks with ease, allowing the real Tien to gain strength before unleashing his new attack. Tien's clones formed a triangle around Saro. The clones and Tien then took the typical tri-beam position and yelled, Take this, Omega Tri-beam. Saro's body was swallowed by a golden variation of Tien's most powerful assault. It grew into a gigantic pyramid out of his ki and life force. The three Tiens yelled as they continued to focus their efforts on the method. The ground was ripped up in the shape of his attack, which got bigger and more intense. Saro regained consciousness and discovered himself in excruciating pain. His body was unprotected and unprepared for the attack, having been caught off guard. Saro's body had been damaged so severely, so completely, that the android was unable to move and was trapped in the middle of Tien's energy pyramid. Saro attempted everything he could to summon strength as he strained against the flow of Tien's Omega Tri-beam. However, his train of thinking was disrupted when he heard Tien's muffled shouting in the distance. You are immobile. I could have crushed you to oblivion before you had a chance to recover if I had chosen to. Tien powered up once again, causing Saro to scream in agony. Yield, and I will stop my attack, Tien said again. Saro laughed, feeling energy erupt from his center. Saro's golden skin tone disappeared, and his body began to glow platinum-colored without warning. This is the true reward for my training efforts, my devil cheese development. Platinum blue mode is what I call it. My blue-gold form was nothing more than a stepping stone for me to advance my powers to the next level. Saro's strength washed over everyone. Naruto and Goku both wore astonished expressions on their faces. Does this mean that this is the next stage in a frost demon's power, gold into platinum? Naruto expressed his thoughts aloud. Whoa! Does this imply that Frieza and Cooler may have been even more powerful? Goku said with sparkling eyes. I suppose so, but we'll never find out at this rate. Naruto bobbed his head back and forth, as if trying to think of anything. After all, we killed the strongest member of their race. Perhaps if King Cold is still alive, we'll face a challenge from them in the future. Naruto had no idea that King Cold had been revived as a result of Gohan's wish to resurrect all individuals killed by the .0. Along with several of the opposing frost demons that were fighting for power in the early years of the PTO's founding. Saro had actually reached the next level of power for his devil chi, thanks to the Saiyan God ki in combat. Saro's body rippled with energy, enticing the two strongest Saiyans to skip the lineup. Tien was struggling, but even in Saro's new form, the android couldn't believe how effective this technique was. He was exerting all of his strength to advance slowly approach one of Tien's clones. This is a fantastic technique, Saro said calmly as he ran his finger through one of the clone's heads. In reaction, the clone shot back at Tien's body, substantially weakening the attack. Saro snapped his Omega Tri-beam and hit the actual Tien before Tien could move. A single blow to the bald half-alien's jaw knocked him out while his final clone retreated within his body. Naruto then walked over to Tien and healed him before declaring, the victor is Saro. Who wants to go first? Many of the Z fighters were hesitant after witnessing his power. The Saiyans, on the other hand, did not. Even if they were weaker than Saro's current form, they would push themselves to the edge and attempt to outperform them in order to win. But, before they could do anything, Krillin raised his hand and surprised everyone by saying, "I wouldn't mind giving it a shot." To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope you did enjoy the part of the story, and if it did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support, and have a great day.